Antes que nada, muchísimas gracias. El encuentro de hoy, lamentablemente, va a ser en otro idioma. A veces sucede. Ojalá se pueda entender y ojalá se pueda traducir alguna vez alguno de los encuentros después en la web. Pero bueno, no siempre todos hablamos el idioma que yo hablo, que él no habla, que es el español. Y en realidad él tendría que ser en francés, pero él es bilingüe porque es de Canadá y habla francés y habla inglés. Pero vamos a hablar con el idioma también de nuestros corazones y quizás algo de eso se puede plasmar en nuestras palabras en inglés. Así que voy a cambiar al inglés y le voy a dar la bienvenida, pero esto sí lo digo en español, a uno de los cineastas que yo sigo hace mucho, mucho tiempo, que me parece uno de los grandes cineastas de nuestro tiempo. Quizás no es tan conocido a mi juicio, es conocido, pero es de los grandes a mi juicio, que es el señor Denis Côté. Un aplauso.
Gracias. Gracias. I understand you, you know that.
I know, but
Okay, be careful.
But we have to. You know that I would never say something that I won't say it in this language in front of you.
I know.
So it's a privilege and a pleasure to be with you again. I have done with you interviews in the TV. I have done interviews in newspapers, and this is the first time here, and I am absolutely happy to be with you. Paul is a film that has begun in Berlinale this year, but since then it has been around, and hopefully it's in this festival. I will begin about this film, which is connected, from my point of view, with some other films you have done before, like Carcasses, Skin So Soft, and maybe in a different way that summer, because there are some topics around, which is people who have certain kind of practices, or they cope with their lives in a particular way, that from a typical and orthodox point of view, we could see them as anomalies in the social spectrum, but of course it's not your point of view at all. But you have always been interested in certain kind of eccentricism, or not eccentric in the sense of, oh, how strange I am, but in terms of people who are not on the center of society. And I wonder if you can say something firstly about this general aspect of your work.
Well, it's obvious. I told you a few times. I said that in a few interviews.
Yes.
I like to make films about people slightly outside of society. That's why I don't really like the word marginal, eccentrics, crazy characters or people. I'm really touched by people who lived a little outside of society. People who are afraid to go to the hospital. People who are afraid to pay their taxes. People who think a little differently. And why is that? I came to think that I'm a little bit like that. In the sense that I'm really not afraid, even if there's a crowd here to say, you know, I'm 52 years old, I don't have a family, I don't have kids, I don't have a driver's license, I don't have a car, I don't have a house. I live just for cinema in my little apartment, and that makes me completely free. And when you say free, you can also say freak. But I feel that myself and my characters have the complete liberty to go with what they love or like. So Paul is the story, it's not a story, it's a real man that I met. I was seeing a girl, a woman, and sometimes she would refer to Paul as the guy who could give her a ride home. And then she was talking about him in a way that was not very respectful. And then she told me, Paul is just a guy who can give me a ride home and he has no value. And I said, how can you talk like that? She said, that's what he says. Then I said, tell me more about this guy. So she said, well, he decided that he's not worth having a girlfriend. He's not worth having a relationship with people. So he developed a submissive kink, and he decided that he's a simp in the BDSM world. A simp is someone who is devoting his life to serving women. And he's perfectly happy like that, and that's how he wants to live. And he's cleaning for dominatrix in their homes because he's suffering from social anxiety, and that's how he's coping with solitude and anxiety. Obviously, there was a film project there, and I decided to meet Paul, and he came to my place. It was very hard because he doesn't talk to men, but he ended up telling me his whole life story, and he agreed to make a project with me. So to go back to your question, I'm not saying I was looking at Paul as if he was a mirror, obviously not. But I tend to be very, very attracted to this kind of people because even if he repeats that he's happy, 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 and free, I know there's something underneath that is worth exploring with a film project. And what I like about a project like that, it's that it's dangerous. It's very dangerous to make an exploitative project, being very voyeuristic, sensationalistic. But I felt okay with that idea because before the films you named, Carcass or A Skin So Soft, it was about bodybuilders. I know that I can approach these people with the right amount, the right distance and the right amount of respect. So in the end, the film is just weird enough, but it's also very respectful, I think.
Yeah, I think you always conjure up any sense of freak. There is nothing connected with freakness, and there is always like a perspective of a human life. That's always, I don't know how you do it, because it's very easy to go more than
we
that.
can agree that we're talking together now, but I didn't know there was a crowd here. But the way I just pitched the film, everybody now is like, what? I want to see this film, because it's very human to be attracted to that freak level. But I made the film in a way that I show Paul as if it was complete everyday life with a lot of delicate moments. And sometimes he's getting beaten by dominatrix and stuff. But the rest of the time, it's very, very quiet. And I like to oppose the violence of a certain idea of BDSM with everyday life, that is our lives. So, yeah.
Yes, you never participate in any common sense representation of things like that. And that this is the twist that you have in your films. I was wondering, there is something that I think it's, for me, it's the right approach towards the character, which is we barely know something about his previous life. We only know that he has been in a kind of depression for many years. We know that he is 300 pounds or 136 kilos. We know that he does the videos, but barely he said something about his father. No family, no psychological setup. Can you tell us a little bit about not to approach him psychologically, which I think is extremely interesting and
it's my cinephile point of view. I've always liked and watched cinema that we could call observational cinema. And usually observational cinema is not directly synonymous with psychological cinema. And I knew that this film was made for 1,500 euros. A crew of 2 persons, on a period of 7 months, 17 days of shoot. So you can see it's not Boyhood. I'm not following Paul over 20 years with a beginning, a middle, and an end. I knew it would be a portrait stuck in a period of time. There's no beginning in the sense that I explained to you too much who he is. And when the film is over, the film is not over. So it's not a box that you can open and you can close. And that, for the viewer I am, and for the audience I want to reach, it is exactly the kind of cinema I want to show. Just a short portrait of someone and you deal with it with your sense of moral. Some people come to me, they say, oh, Paul is a freak, okay. Paul is sad, okay. Paul is makes me laugh, okay. Everything is okay. It's your moral talking about my film, but just imagine for a second that I think Paul is depressing. I think Paul is funny, and I think Paul is a freak. There's no way I can make the film. The film will be judgmental, and I will try to push all the buttons to go towards where I want to go. Now, if you come to see Paul, you go back home and you decide what you think about this guy, about his sexuality, about his choices in life, about BDSM, about solitude, about social anxiety. But film directors should never make the kind of cinema that looks therapeutic, over-psychologized. I'm not Paul's therapist. I have a camera, I stay in a corner, I show you something. The consentment is total. He saw the film, he's very happy. I feel that my project is respecting the right perimeter, and I feel that I didn't judge that person. If you talk to me one-on-one, we can talk about Paul without an audience, and I might have some opinions.
Of course.
But not on screen. And during Q&As, of course, I talk a lot so I can give my opinion. But if you just watch the film, you're stuck with my film, and you decide.
But this is something that you have also done. I remember once we were presenting in Mexico together Bestiaria, and it was incredible what the people project towards the film.
That's the first time I made this. Bestia was a 71-minute film, only animals looking at the camera in a zoo. And it was, for me, it was like just a visual exploration, just something, not funny, but just a canvas. You throw something on a canvas, and then you don't know what it is, and you try to understand what it is. That was my first point of entry on the project. But then give 70 minutes of animals looking at you in a cinema. You're fighting to understand what is the author trying to tell me, and then you decide what it probably is. So that film was insane. It was at Berlinale, it was in Sundance. Some people were seeing a horror film, some people were seeing a
concentration camp analogy. I remember that.
I will never bring my kids to cinema anymore. Some people were sleeping, most boring film ever made. Some people were laughing. Thank you, Denis, for making a film that is commenting on zoos. These places are like concentration camps. So that was 2012. And I think it opened doors for me on how an audience is supposed to receive a film. Because before that, I was making films for myself. That's how you start when you make art cinema. Your first films, you make films for yourself. And if people don't like it, that's it. I like it, you know. And then the notion of an audience is coming, and it's really fun. The interaction is really fun, but you need a bit of maturity to understand that. And I think Bestia was the first one. Obviously, Paul, obviously, A Skin So Soft. And it also penetrating my fiction films with the characters and the actors. Yeah, so it's my approach, I guess.
Last February, I made an open talk in Canada, but through internet, for a Spanish speaker audience about your cinema. It's called The Other Denis, because the famous Denis is Villeneuve.
No, yes.
And you are the not famous. But and I began watching I'd done it in the past, but to watch one after another, and it's extremely interesting how even in the first one, yes, this is already there. Although that I understand the idea of majority when Bestiary, yes, came up.
But just before 2005, my first film, I had like 10 or 12 years of film criticism.
I know.
So you make short films, So when I made my first feature, I already had all my motives, if you want. But sometimes I look at what I did, 17 feature films in 20 years, And then I start thinking about how it happened and what motivates me. I think I like to practice cinema like a painter like to practice painting. You wake up every morning, you paint. You don't know what it's worth, and you don't think about the worth of what you're doing. Maybe it's a masterpiece and it's going to be sold somewhere. Maybe it's just an exercise. And so I don't have a curve of ambition going up, 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 up. My curve of ambition is just moving, shifting. And since I'm not a director who wants to succeed, you need to understand the word succeed, what it means. A lot of directors, it means going there. And there can be an Oscar, can be Hollywood, can be... But you're aiming at something. I don't have an aim. I just practice my craft. And I'm obsessed with image, sound, and editing and narrative proposition. So if I want to make a Paul for 1,500 euros at 51 years old, I'm just not afraid of doing it. And if nobody sees it, let's do the next one. I'm always a bit sad when I see young filmmakers, they made their first film here, the next film must be there and there and there, and it's always up. Because if you go down, it means you're going down.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I love about something what I love about your career is when you're saying you don't buy the whole idea of value production, because this is going up. When you're going up, it's also value production up. You know?
But you need to understand where I come from. Maybe I come from not a very rich family. When I was young, I was a punk, a metalhead. I was organizing independent concerts. I was doing a fanzine. Everything was so DIY, and I was renting a club to show my short films, and I stayed like that. And I'm proud to have stayed. I don't want to use a word like punk or whatever, but maybe it's a problem. Maybe I should just go up and up, but I know I will not go up. So I'm quite proud that I stayed the same guy I was when I was 20 years old, and I think it's a way to navigate the film world, and you travel around the world, you go to film festivals, and then when you fall in love with a filmmaker like, I like to talk about him, a guy like Hong Sang-soo, you get obsessed by the Hong Sang-soo system.
Absolutely.
Not the films. The
$15,000 films he does.
The corporate Hong Sang-soo. He's an empire, a company, an idea, an abstraction. And you get sucked by the idea of this guy, and you're like, there's no way this guy is not happy. He's probably very comfortable with who he is. He makes those films. If you don't want to look at them, don't look at them. And I'm quite obsessed with the presence of a person like that in the film world. And I'd rather be obsessed by him than by, I don't know, Guillermo del Toro and trying to get there, or...
No. You don't have to go on with this
or maybe I should have this discussion with Denis Villeneuve.
That would be fantastic.
We're good friends, but he's just not in Montreal too much. But we could sit down and have this discussion.
When he began, he was not so far from the way you work.
I still remember sitting in Rotterdam with Denis Villeneuve after he made the film Incendie, and he was telling me that he wanted to be like me. And I was like, Denis, I had made Curling and he had made Incendie, and we were in the same festivals at the same time. He did something in Toronto. It's just a long anecdote, but let's not go there. But,
okay.
But he was really talking to me in a way that we were like this. And he studied Antonioni, and he studied history of cinema, and he wants to be in books. And then, as you know, something happened, and he found another way. But I know the little Denis Villeneuve I used to have a beer with, and it would be fun to talk about the notion of ambition with this guy. And he's a lovely, lovely person. So, it's just a dream I have to sit down with Denis
One
Villeneuve
day we'll
talk
try
about ambition. I know you would still sit there and tell me he wants to be with me, like me. And I would be just laughing at his face. But, adorable person if you ever meet Denis Villeneuve in...
Let's go.
dollar
Let's
store.
go back to Paul for a while, and there is something in Paul, which is also something that I wanted to. I can imagine the answer, but that's what I can imagine, and nobody can read what I imagine. So,
Yet.
what happened with the practices in the film? Those practices, I mean, I would say this soft sado. Yes, yes, masochist practice is very soft, but those situations are for the camera, or you were just in the corner and you didn't know what they were about to represent. For instance, the moment that the Merry Christmas moment, like just to give you an example.
Oh. The answer will be quite long and boring. Let's say we make a film here.
Let's do it.
And it's a documentary. I cannot just take out my camera and film a documentary. It's not how it happens. Should a documentary be scripted? Not necessarily. But a documentary has to be prepared. So with Paul, I asked Paul, I said, as long as you don't give me at least 6 or 7 names of your, we say doms for dominas or dominatrix, but as long as you don't give me the names of 6 or 7 of your doms, I cannot make the film. So it took 4 or 5 months for him to give me the names. So I would write to every woman. And then I just said, can I go to your place and can we talk about Paul with him not being there?
Okay.
And they were like, yeah. And I would look at their apartments, where the light is coming from, what kind of space we have, where could we put the camera? And then I would ask the lady, are you friend with Paul? Answers were surprising. And then, how long have you known Paul? Okay. How many times per month is he coming here? Are you paying him? So it was a proper interview, not film. So then I leave and I know what I'm dealing with. And then I see, do you mind if we come on April 17th? And I want to make sure that what you're going to do with Paul is exactly as if there would be no camera. Usually they would say yes. And then I would ask, so what is supposed to happen when we're going to be here? You see, it's not a script, but it's... And she would say, well, usually he's cleaning my kitchen. How long is that? 1 hour? Okay. And then we play. They usually use the word play. I say, what is playing for you? Oh, usually I will humiliate him because that's what he likes. Okay? What I just heard is what I just heard. I don't need to investigate what I heard. Okay, so what do you do? Well, usually he's going to be on my floor. I put my feet on him, and he stays there, and I talk to him, and sometimes I humiliate him. For how long? Well, 40, 45 minutes. Sometimes I just look at my phone. Say, okay, April 17, can we agree that you're going to do what you usually do? Yeah, no problem. So when we arrive, that's what's happening. So would you say it's scripted or just prepared? For sure, we're going to get some truth. It's not forced. So that's what I like. That's how documentary should be prepared. I think it's a fly-on-the-wall technique. Or you can just take the camera handheld and you film all crappy looking and it's shaking because people are moving. But for Paul, it was made like that. Then we cheated here and there. There's a whole scene that is a long lie, but I will never tell you which one. So it's fake because I love fiction. So I like to play with the audience. A film is a film. It's not an account of 100% reality. Then I was afraid that I had no ending, so I prepared an ending with him. So you see, it's 80% reality, 20% Denis Côté coming to be Denis Côté. So that's how that's my Lego game, you know. But yeah, I think a lot of filmmakers work like that. But it's fun to talk about it because a lot of people, they don't know how we make those films. Yeah. But everything is consentment, everything is, we agree on everything. Maybe in the film there was 1 or 2 very sudden surprise. Like, whoa, that happened in front of our camera. But yeah, and Paul is comfortable and he's Yeah, the hardest is he doesn't talk to men. So every morning I would come, hi Paul, how are you? Good. So you're okay? Today we're going to put the camera there. You're going to clean over there? Yes. And then he would start. So at night I was using a production manager, female, and she would call him and talk with him for an hour. And then she would report to me. And then I learned that he thought I was very intimidating. He never saw my films. He didn't want to see my films. He didn't know who I was. He didn't care. And the person said, okay, because he talks a lot, he's tall, the tattoos and stuff. And he was like, yeah. And he doesn't like men. So unfortunately, I'm the one who had the idea to make the film, not
a woman. And tell me something else. That's quite revelatory, what you're telling me now. And what happened with some moments you treat him as a filmmaker in the way that he prepared the camera, you show him putting the camera in a certain space, there's an idea of framing, quite clear that he has an idea of framing, and then he pretends to be walking, and then that's at the very beginning. And then later on we see the way he edited the material. I was very surprised by one thing. I didn't see it coming. I thought I was making a documentary about a lonely guy suffering from social anxiety, and he's doing cleanings for dominant women. I thought that was my project. And the moment we started, social media invaded the project like I never expected. Oh.
I knew that Paul was documenting every night what he does day by day, and he has Da Vinci at home and he's editing everything, and I knew he was good. But I never thought the film would become a sort of filmmaker watching a guy who likes to put his image out there, and the film became meta very quick because the extension of the arm of Paul is his phone. And it's his way to deal with reality. If he would be here now, he would film you, everybody, as if he has a weapon in his hand, and he's not looking at people, and he's just waving. And for him, he has some material here, he looks at his material, he doesn't need to look at you, and he's happy because the reality is in the box, but he never looked at you, and then he goes home, and it's here, and he never... So he has an experience of the world, but it's in the phone.
It's said at the sexual moments, but at the... punishing moments.
He even needs to be filmed,
but it's not with the hand.
During the punishment or the compliments or the humiliation, he needs to film that material. Why?
Well, that's very interesting. It's a kind of extension of his... it's a kind of ontology. It's not even psychology.
It's part of his giant safe space. Because what you need to know is he started that at 27. He was completely alone from 20 to 27. He was living with his cousin, eating junk food. He was in the dark. No light was coming inside the apartment, eating junk food and gaming for 7 years. And then they decided they needed to meet women. And they found a trick. The word trick is very important. He told me. He said, I created a Tinder account. It didn't work. He said, and then I thought, I'm going to write, I clean for women. 10 messages per day, 15, he said. He said, suddenly I was 27 and I was meeting women. I said, you were going to their places? Yes. And he said, I was not a very good cleaner. He doesn't care about cleaning. He doesn't care about being hit. He wants to meet women. And now I'm talking about 36 years old, and that was 27. So he went on, came out of his suffering, if you want, living in his phone. He found a trick to... So it's beautiful. It's a bit sad at the same time, but it's beautiful. So now, at 36, 37, he has this giant safe space, 7 days a week, surrounded by sexy women, because he's selecting them. And he wants the one who are, he won't say it, but the most beautiful ones, and the ones he can have the most original interactions with. So at 36 now, when he's alone in his apartment, he feels very bad, but as long as he's with these women, he's okay with the world. Is it bad or is it good? Is it sad? Is it funny? I'm not sure. I'm a bit afraid of where it's going. I'm afraid it's going to be the same when he's going to be 42, but I don't know. So that's, yeah, I don't remember your question. I keep talking about Paul all the time because I'm trying to understand this guy.
I understand. We have to stop because he's our master of editing.
He's the best.
But beyond that, but it seems to be, I'm just about to cut in 1 minute. Just a small comment. It seems to be that he's learning, because I think what you show in a moment, the diary, and he writes there, and he's trying to overcome certain limits.
He's very good at understanding himself. He's very good at finding tools. He's very good at finding tricks to get out of himself. It's just a very long process. It's very touching. Where is it going? I don't know. I was just there for 7 months. I did my job of giving him the attention he wanted. I made a film, and these women get free cleanings. This film is fucking transactional. So everybody's happy on some level. Yeah. Is it right ethically? I'm not sure. I don't know where the... But yeah, it was an exciting...
fucking transition.
It was an exciting project to make. That's
Thank you, my friend, once again to be with me talking. It's always a pleasure. And thank you for all for being in silence.
I didn't know there was an audience, so thank you for...
Thank you to all. Bye-bye.
Fantastic.